Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and today we are back at it with fitness and physical health, but also business and mental health. Often they play a role together, and we always talk about the importance of balance and making sure those are great. If you're listening, not watching, I am at an outdoor training course of the sort because, like I said in my last physical fitness episode, it comes in so many different varieties. And just like I've mentioned with mental health, when it comes to de-stressing with creative outlets or whatever it may be, don't feel limited thinking there's no way I could de-stress. I'm not good at dancing or singing or writing or handling my feelings. And when it comes to physical health, you might say, well, I'm not good at running. I'm not good at swimming. I can't lift heavy weights. There is a way for you to de-stress and to handle your health. There are so many different varieties out there and so many different programs. And today we are going to talk with an expert who created one of the greatest fitness programs in the history of the world. And he's going to talk to us about what comes with success and failure. We have Steve Hochman here to talk to us about physical fitness, business, and mental health. So, Mr. Hochman, please, would you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
No, thanks for having me on. Yeah, my name's Steve Hochman. I do nutrition, fitness, and mindset coaching, both online and in my in-person locations in Orange County, California. And what you were saying about like not trying things because you're not good at them and all that stuff. I think a big problem that I see like a lot is that everyone wants to feel good all the time and
Mm,
be comfortable, like hit that pleasure button all the time. And I think the reason why so many people are depressed and stressed right now in today's society is because I don't think people understand that you need contrast to be happy. So
yeah.
you can't be happy all the time. Like you can't just have hot or you can't just have light. There's light is the absence of darkness, hot is the absence of cold, and you could kind of choose your pain or your pain could choose you. So when you choose
Mm.
positive pain of a hard workout or, doing something that makes you really uncomfortable, but it's positive pain, then that contrast is happiness. And I think a lot of people that avoid that stuff all the time find themselves never happy and they're always seeking something they'll never find because you won't find it without the contrast.
Yeah, and you talk about feeling good all the time. And also I think people just want to be like naturally good at something. Like they want to be like the first time they do it, they excel,
Uh,
especially if they can do it better than other people. I mean, of course, yeah, there's no greater feeling than there's people who have been training their whole lives to do something and then you just show up and it's like you're a prodigy. Like that's a great feeling. It is. But it's also a great feeling to look back on how far you came from where you started. So I think that's so important. You talk about the contrast. Yeah, we've talked before on the show about how discipline is what's needed for the gym, as well as faith. Discipline is what's needed, not motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Like you said, there's going to be days at the gym that it sucks, where your body feels like crap or you're not motivated. It could be a number of reasons. I know for me personally, the more people there are at the gym, the less I want to be there. I'm a gym introvert, as we've discussed on the show. But there are some days where my arms are really burning. I had a really good workout. And if that was every time, it wouldn't be as exciting as, if we PR'd every day, it doesn't get exciting. It's that I think there's satisfaction. It's like work satisfaction from that training. So I totally agree. And just speaking of fitness, what really got you into it? So much so that you started a program about it.
Yeah, for me, I think I was just born wanting to do physical things and work out. When I was in 10th grade, I decided I wanted to play football. And at the time we were getting kicked in and out of houses and I was like homeless, not homeless. And so I went out for football and I liked it because it was actually I was able to get a lot of my frustration and aggression out and I was able to hit
Right.
people without getting in trouble. In fact, you get rewarded for trying to crush people and destroy
Yeah.
them. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a scholarship, and that was my way out of like living in a car. And so I only had 2 more years to do it and I never played before. So really I just started working out and I just started training and I just did it all the time and it felt so good and I saw the results from it and I ended up, in 3 years becoming All-American and getting a scholarship and all that stuff. But I think for me, I don't know. I don't, I guess, you know how you say like what got me into fitness? I guess the question is like, how is someone not? Like we
Yeah.
have one life, one body, and if you could think anything you do, whether you're a parent, you own a business, you're a leader, you work at an ice cream shop, it really doesn't matter. Anything in your life you do, if you were fit and strong, you're going to do it better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I almost don't understand how someone wouldn't. I understand not everyone's going to be on the same level of intensity and all that, but to not work out and to let your mind and your body just be weak, and it doesn't sound like a good way to live for me.
No, I totally agree. I agree 100%. I mean, I've been skinny my whole life, but I've always been active, right? I always do a lot of cardio. I do lifting and stuff. And I remember, my family and I, we would sometimes watch My 600-Pound Life. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with the show. And if there's medical issues, that's fine, right? And we talked about this in a previous episode about the recent movements, recent being the past few years of fat is beautiful, but it's misconstrued into fat is beautiful, therefore it's healthy. Beautiful doesn't mean healthy. Being confident as a larger person doesn't equal healthy, right? We talk about it's just not. It's just the truth is if you are a larger person, you are more likely to have health issues in certain areas or do. And so you talk about, I used to watch that show and think to myself, how could someone ever let themselves get to that point? I've never been at that point, but what I imagine is feeling lethargic, not being able to do stuff on my own. You see, a lot of these people aren't independent, which as a human being, one of the greatest things is being independent, being able to do things on your own. I think as kids, when you first learn how to ride a bike or you get a car as a teenager, freedom, you can go places on your own. It's that kind of thing. If you have to be escorted everywhere, helped out of bed, you can't even bathe yourself. I've never understood how people let themselves get to that point, like you said, and especially we're our biggest health advocate ourselves. We are our own biggest health advocate because it's our body. And at the end of the day, people might check in on you on your health. They might hold you accountable to your health, but only you can change it. Only you can actively pursue that, whether it's in the positive or negative direction. And so I agree with your statement is how could anyone not be into fitness? And like you said, there's so many different levels, but even just maintaining basic health, making sure you get some good stuff into your diet, making sure you at least walk or do something of some sort. It really does blow my mind that social media is pushing for, and the mainstream news, pushing for, life on Ozempic is great. And, we're creating these crutches and encouragement and enabling people to want to seek that lifestyle or with no limiting the consequences or just portraying that there aren't consequences encourages it. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't, the whole thing like fat is beautiful, lean is not, it is whatever. What I see is this. Being aligned with your conscience is beautiful. Being out of alignment with your conscience is not attractive.
Mm,
It's not beautiful. And so what I mean by that is, being super fat or my 600-pound life, I'm not looking at the what. It's not what this person weighs. It's who is weighing that. Who is this person? And so it's never the what
okay.
with me.
Yeah.
It's always the who. So who is killing themselves? Who is making it so that they are not independent, they can't walk around? Who is giving this horrible version of themselves to the people they claim to love? You know, who is the parent that passes their pain on to their kids because they couldn't solve it with themselves? That's what I look at. I don't look at like someone's
Yeah.
body and say like, oh, that's great. Like you could take a drug and look a certain way, but you're still the same who that needs to take
Mm,
this drug because that person can't stop doing these things that are horrible or figure these things out that are causing them pain that they're not giving to their family. And for me, it's like, you were talking about discipline and motivation. And to be honest, they're both great, but I think there's something, and you also talked about faith. And I think there's something that's bigger than motivation or discipline, and it goes into the direction of faith. It's a higher purpose. And so an example of that is if you talk to a parent and let's say it's cold, it's dark, it's raining, it's windy out,
right.
and they got to pick their kid up from school, and their kid's just sitting there in that cold, windy rain. And does that parent have to be disciplined to go pick up their kid in the rain? Does their parent
Mm,
have to go watch a motivational video? No, because they have a purpose bigger than themselves. And for me, when I made the connection of everything I do, when I removed myself from the equation, because I am the problem, and I just look at things through a lens of, can I give value with this or not? So
right.
if my kids are, on TikTok, and I'm like, hey, you need to get off TikTok and do your homework, but they know that I need to be lean and healthy because that's what I want, that's what aligns with my conscience, but I can't walk by the cupboard without grabbing the chips. Well, how do I give them the solution to something I haven't solved for myself? And
Yeah.
so it's not even about me. I don't have to get, I'm not like, I have to go work out. First of all, I get to work out. I don't have to work out. I have a friend named Marcus who, when I was playing college football, I saw him get paralyzed right in front of me from the neck down, permanently paralyzed,
Wow.
severed his spinal cord. And if I go like, oh man, I have to work out today, he would give anything to be able to work out today. I get to work out today. I get to do this work. I get to eat healthy. I get to do the stuff that I do, and sometimes just changing one word makes a big difference. But in my opinion, it's like, if you could attach everything to a purpose of something that's bigger than yourself and really see the connection to that, of both helping that bigger purpose and adding to it by being that best version of yourself, or hurting or taking away from that bigger purpose by being a lesser version of yourself, then everything becomes a lot easier, and you don't need discipline or motivation to have a
Mm.
bigger purpose.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said, no matter what you do in life, being healthier isn't going to hinder you. Unless your life goal is to be unhealthy. And
Yeah,
like you said, it is such a privilege. And that's part of what upsets me so much when I see people neglecting their health. Is like you said, there's so many people who would give to walk, to be able to go to the gym, to have that privilege, uh, health wise or just, situation wise. And I love that you said it's the who behind it because I've had these conversations with some of my friends. They're like, in the dating, in terms of dating, they're like, would you date her because she's a bigger woman? And I'm like, she's a bigger woman, but she goes to the gym every day. And to me, that's more attractive than a skinny woman who doesn't go to the gym, who neglects her health. Because, like you said, it's the person behind it. Because a person who's actively seeking their health, that's what's attractive to me. It's not really the current state of the health. It's where is that person trying to bring their health?
yeah,
Especially for me as a man who
and
wants children, it's like, sure, a woman could be skinny and attractive, but if she's not actively pursuing her health, if she's doing things to neglect her health, is that the mother I want bearing my children and teaching my children that as well? So that's something, like you said, the who behind it, and I love that. And you talk about it's a privilege, and I totally agree. I think that is such a good reality check for so many people, and I am curious about something. I know it's a little pivot from fitness, but
yeah.
talking about your situation growing up, you talk about living in a beat up car senior year of high school and stuff. I was curious what your relationship was with your parents and if your journey through life has brought you towards forgiveness or resentment with all of that.
That's a really great question. So my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, and my mom ended up moving. So I was in Los Angeles, and my mom moved to Orange County, which basically is like 2.5, 3 hours away. So it might as well have been in another state.
Right,
And so I lived with my dad. I didn't really know that my dad was a con artist. I didn't know. I thought he was the greatest guy in the world. I just,
right,
like, warned me about him, but I was so defensive over him, and I idolized him. So I didn't know at the time. And, as far as like, you asked for forgiveness and stuff like that,
right.
right? So and I was angry for a long time, actually. I was pretty pissed. Once I realized everything, I was mad at my mom for leaving and moving, 3 hours away. And I was mad at my dad for not being better and for using me. And like, I was going to be his meal ticket and, play football in the NFL. And
Yeah,
I was like his thing, and so, and for not just being a better person, but what got me through that is that one day I realized that parents are just people. So if a broken
mm,
person has kids, as a kid, you expect a certain amount of awesomeness from your parents, a certain amount of
Yeah,
love,
for
a
sure.
certain amount, of quality from your parents. But the truth is that for some people, that's the best they got. There's a saying that says, "But for the grace of God go I," which means that under if this circumstance happened at this time, or this person didn't come in my life at that time, that might be me. I might be that person that I'm despising.
Mm,
That could be me. But I got lucky in this situation, or this happened at the right time, or I had the right mindset, or whatever happened, I escaped that. And when I realized that a parent could just be a broken person just because they have a kid, if they're on the edge of like being like broken, or improving, maybe having a kid pushes them over the edge.
right,
Some people are so far from the edge that it's just they don't even see it. They don't even know they're on. They don't even know
right.
that they're that type of person. They're in such denial, and so when I really realized that parents are just people, that's what allowed me to just let all that go. And it's funny because sometimes your family are people that are not related to you. Like my wife is my family, but we're not
Yeah,
genetically related, and sometimes the people that are genetically related to you aren't your family.
yeah.
And that was a big help for me to learn that just parents are just people and some people are broken.
Yeah, I know. I agree with what you said 100%. My situation is the same in the sense that I don't really have anyone left genetically just because of our relationships, but through the podcasting industry, through the military and everything else, I have made a family. And it's interesting because my dad doesn't understand that. He has this mindset that, as long as we have shared genes or blood, that makes a special thing. Even for like my great uncle is sick in the hospital, and he's like, we gotta go visit him because he's my mom's brother. We've never talked to the guy in years. He's like, but we share the same blood. I'm like, that doesn't make us family, right? I mean, so it's interesting how that all works, and definitely a concept. But let's fast forward a little bit from your family time, and then we move, start playing football, and then somewhere down the road, as we've hinted at from the beginning of the episode, you create a fitness boot camp program. Tell us all about that and the role that had in your life.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I started just training people when I was like in my early 20s. I didn't even know that was like a career or a business or anything. I just some kid, I was like really fat after football, and I really didn't understand about nutrition at all. I learned some real high level nutrition things really young, and within like 6 months, because I switched sports to MMA after football, and I was super shredded and lean, and people were just like watching me do this. And so
Right.
this kid, my first client, this kid, this 18-year-old kid came up to me and he's like, "Can I pay you $100 and just work out with you for a week?" And at the time, I was just delivering pizzas, to be honest. And I was like,
Right.
"Yeah, you want to pay me
Yeah.
$100 to work out with
Yeah.
me?" And then after that week, I was like, "Man, this is actually really cool. Like I could totally do this." And I ended up just training one person, another person, another person. And before you knew it, I had like 100 personal training clients. I opened a gym, my first seven-figure gym. And I kind of discovered a way of doing group training. Back then it was just all one-on-one training. And I was training groups just because I was so busy. I just had so many people. I didn't ask. I just paired them up. And my workouts were so hard. They were hoping there'd be other people there. They didn't want to be alone with just me. And
Right.
and then that turned into me starting fitness boot camps. And at the time they were all in a park. They were not indoors.
Mm.
Like these 6-week boot camps and then a 4-week break, 6-week boot camps. And I was one of the first trainers to ever use auto debit as a trainer. Like it's like a membership to train with me,
Oh, okay.
and rather than me selling a package over and over again. Like I said, I had too many clients, so I couldn't just sit there and resell, resell, resell. So I was
Right.
like, how do
Wow.
these gyms do it? How do they? Because there was no Square or Stripe or anything back then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, and so I started using a membership base that gyms used. And I had, 100 clients that were on like a $500 a month membership. And
Wow.
and then I transferred that to boot camps and I started running them inside gymnastics and cheerleading centers because they're closed in the mornings. So they let me be in there for free or for very little rent. And then I ended up partnering with someone who had a big email list and following of trainers. And I had this business model and we created a company called Fit Body Bootcamp. It grew pretty fast, I don't know, like 500 locations worldwide pretty quickly. And it was just this model I had, but it kind of was a hard thing to franchise because it's very personality driven. You can't just like, it's not like a
Right.
McDonald's where you just like get an owner could just buy a McDonald's and it just runs. You just follow the blueprint.
Right. They needed you.
It needed someone with the right personality,
Yeah.
the right owner. A lot of business owners were buying it and they would hire trainers, and then those trainers would walk off with all their clients. Like so the
Yeah.
business owner would pay all this money for marketing, following our marketing procedures and systems, fill the boot camp up, and then the trainer's like, well, why am I getting paid hourly? All these people are here for me. I could just open my own place and leave. And that's what
Yep.
and
Wow.
so I ended up selling my half of the company, and I opened up another brand called OC Fit. I kept it smaller, not franchised, just privately owned. And yeah, and that's kind of how that all came to be. And it's just I still can't believe that like I get to do this. It's so funny. Like you just literally like are training people like I mean really just beating them up and making them better and teaching them the solutions that helped you. Like basically it's all just what helped me. I just give them what helped me. This mindset helped me. These type of workouts helped me. This nutrition helped me. And so it should work for you too. And and it seems to work with everybody. So yeah, that's how that all came to be.
So you talked about starting outdoors at a park. So is this body weight only training?
No, like people would load up their cars with like dumbbells and then take them out to the
Oh,
park.
okay.
And I mean, I get it. It was in its infancy. That's where boot camps, like fitness boot camps started,
Yeah, yeah.
like in these parks. And I did the park thing like for like a month. And I'm like, there's no way I can't build a business around this. I'm not going to carry weights in my car, like
Right.
we owned a really successful gym. So I felt really weird just being out in the park, like,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started. But yeah, it was a lot of body weight stuff for sure. You got to lead from the front, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I love it. It's a privilege for me. I mean, it's like I have work to do. I'm just finishing up a book that I wrote. I have a lot of marketing stuff that I do, meetings like just writing emails and all that other stuff, and I hate it. I mean, to be honest, like it's not fun sitting in front of your computer,
Right.
but it is fun. I love people. I love watching people become better. It's like, why am I here on this earth? Like what was the purpose for me being here? Did I make any difference in the world at all? And the way I am able to make that difference and feel purpose is by helping people be better, by giving them the solution that I found for myself. And so I don't see myself ever stopping doing that. It's a privilege to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So we're all curious, like, what is your routine right now with fitness? How many hours are you working out a week? What kind of regimen are you following?
Yeah, so I do the exact same workout that everyone else does. And that's another thing, like a lot of trainers, they'll do different workouts. It's like, look, for me, my workout is always about being fit, lean, strong, and healthy, right? Like I'm not into power. Like back in football, of course, I wanted to
Yeah.
bench 500 and all that stuff. I want to be really strong, and I can measure strength by like, can I, if can we box 6 rounds? No problem. Can we go on a long, hard hike right now? Cool, no
Right.
problem. And so my workouts, honestly, are just they're like 45-minute workouts, sometimes 30-minute workouts, and they're just nonstop hit workouts where, my heart rate is in, the 90-95% for different parts of the workout. It's a mixture of high intensity cardio with weightlifting as well, so that you get the best of all worlds at once. And I'm busy. I have kids,
Yeah.
wife,
Yeah, of course.
business, employees, all sorts of stuff. So that's all I do really is those type of workouts. And I love them. I love the challenge of it too. Like to be honest, lifting weights is easy. Like for me, like just lifting, rest, do a lift, rest.
Right.
It's great, but it's easy and it's really one dimensional because I was telling someone the other day, like we get some people that come in and they're really strong people, like they bench like 450, but after like literally 5 minutes they don't have access to their strength anymore.
Yeah.
So if you don't have if you're not a complete fit person, meaning you have long distance cardio, high intensity cardio, and weightlifting strength, then you got it's like you have some really strong, really big weaknesses that are exploited as soon as you start getting out of breath.
No, I agree 100%. I talked about in the previous episode with Roman Fisher, previous as in a few weeks ago now, but we talked about how, we could be guys who lifted weights and did cardio, but I went to this, it was called a turkey burner. The gym on the military base was doing mostly for the military wives and stuff, but it was a turkey burner workout where you would burn the calories that equated to the average like person's calorie intake on Thanksgiving, which is higher than a normal day, of
Yeah, it's
course,
really
right?
high.
You could imagine it was called a turkey burner. And I did it where it was they had like 10 different stations set up. You're working out for a minute, full throttle, resting for like 30 seconds, going to the next one. And it was all
Yep.
just lightweight stuff, right? Nothing heavy. You're doing 8 counts, you're doing jump rope, you're doing all this stuff. I was like, man, I can run 6 to 8 miles at a time. I can lift weights, but this thing is kicking my butt. Like you said, you gotta be balanced all around. And so I'm trying to work more of those into my routine. Because like you said, lifting weights is easy, especially if you're at a gym using machines
Yeah.
on top of it. So it's definitely good to get in. And I know so many. There was a bunch of, especially in the military, there's a bunch of big gym guys who are always saying cardio is a myth. You don't need cardio.
Yeah.
Cardio is good. I love it.
Definitely not a
And
myth.
yeah, yeah, it's important. The reason I like running so much because there's a lot of times where I'll go to lift weights and all I'm thinking is I want to go for a run and then I leave. And that's why I'm still skinny. But I love it because just sitting still bothers me. Not ADHD way or nothing. It's just it doesn't feel active enough.
Mm.
Like I have friends who work out and they're like, I'm not sweating enough. This is too easy because we're just sitting there using the machines and we like to get out there and go after it. And when I'm running, I'm moving my whole body. I'm raising my heart rate. With lifting, yeah, maybe your heart rate gets up a little bit because you're going really heavy, but it's not that
Lifting's
I need that
fun,
full
dude. It's
throttle.
just fun. It's not that. One of my favorite formats to do, honestly, is the EMOM format. I don't know if you're familiar. Like
No,
it's
sir.
basically every minute on the minute. So
Oh,
let's say you're gonna do like like 15 dumbbell shoulder presses and 10 burpee and like 10 burpee push-ups. And
yeah,
you have a minute to get that. But really you need to get it in like 45 seconds because you
right.
get the rest of the minute to rest. And you're going to do 3 sets in a
Mm.
row. So if it takes you a minute, you got zero rest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and then every set gets progressively harder. So let's say your first set takes you 40 seconds. You got 20 seconds to rest. Boom, next set starting. Maybe now you got 15 seconds to rest. Then you just finish your last set. You have 10 seconds to rest, but that 10 seconds you get to the next exercise. And now you're starting right away. So it's like every set is a challenge to push yourself as hard as you can to get the most amount of rest so that you could go hard for the next set.
Yeah.
And then if you do a whole workout like that, if you do maybe set up 9 stations, that's a 27-minute workout where you did 27 sets. Normally, for someone to do 27 sets in a regular gym, they're there for 2.5, 3 hours for
Right.
27. This is 27 minutes for 27 sets. And you got your lifting, your cardio, you got it all in.
Oh
And
yeah.
you have no time to think. You have no time to be on your phone. You have no time for any of that. It's just all action, go, go, go. Every set is a challenge. And that's my favorite type of workout.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend something like that, or the classes for people who are just mind wanderers and their motivation just fades because they're on the machine resting and then they just start thinking and get demotivated. When you're doing something like that, or even a class where someone's holding your attention and you're going from one thing to the next, it can be great. And I know for me personally, having guests on the show like you, like Roman Fisher, like Tian Wong, all fitness people, it just gets me pumped up to go work out. Like as soon as I'm done recording, I'm gonna go run a few miles because it's just hearing people who are passionate about it is great, especially if you're someone who is surrounded by people who are negative, telling you got to work out because you're too skinny or too fat, and you just have all these things that are making it feel like a chore rather than a privilege. We talked earlier, it's a privilege, it's a great thing to do. But I think because of so much criticism and judgment in the world, people see it as a chore, and that's with anything, right? I mean, church is a big example. I know people who love going to church and it's inspiring, and then there are people who just see it as I have to do this every Sunday because my parents, made me do it. Not a I am so glad I live in a country where I have the right to go to church on a Sunday. Same thing with the gym. You know, if you're going because you want to improve your health and not for attention for others. And Tien Wang said it best. If you're working out just to attract other people, think about who you're going to attract because it might not be who you want. It's a great thing in that it's important to do it for yourself because that's the person in your life you're always going to have no matter what. If you do it to attract a certain type of person, they may come and go in your life. But what I want to talk about in relation to all of this, to
Yeah.
fitness and motivation, Mr. Hochman, you've talked about how much you love and how great it is. But at any point in your life, was there a time where you thought you were going to quit or where you just didn't want to do fitness anymore, or whether it was because of the pressure of the business or just how much time it was taking in your life? I'm sure there's a lot of people who, they just burn out at some point. Have you burn out? And if so, what can we do to get over that? Because clearly you're over it. It might be something you still deal with every now and then, but what is that relationship looking like in your life?
Well, I think there are two different things. When you said quit, do I ever want to quit? Every fucking day, like all the time. Like
Right.
when I'm on the rower and I'm trying to get like 800 meters in a certain time, halfway through that, I want to quit. Like
Yeah.
all those thoughts enter my mind. Like, hey, today's not your day. You're not gonna make it. Why are you even doing this? And
Right.
I
Right.
love that. But you understand, like the people, if you're not feeling like quit, if you're not pushing yourself to the point where you feel like quitting and all these negative thoughts flood your head and you overcome them, what are you gonna do in real life when something happens? Like the people that don't that's what I'm saying. That you either choose the positive pain or pain chooses you. So you can either choose to put yourself in these uncomfortable situations and overcome them, or life will give you these uncomfortable situations and you won't be
Mm.
ready. Period. End of story. And that's why so many people are weak and soft right now because they are so
Yeah.
comfortable and they are avoiding all these things and they think that's the way to go. And then the moment something happens, it feels like the biggest thing in the world to them. It feels like the world's going to end. And it's like, no, man, you're going to be all right. That's just a headache. You're okay, because they're not conditioned for it. Just like anything, you could become so weak and you could also become so strong. And both of those things takes time. As far as, do I ever really want to like quit permanently or anything like that? If you were to ask 100 people on the street, like just walk up to 100 people and go, what is your purpose? 99 out of 100 won't know. They're literally living their life and they don't know they don't have a crystal clear picture of what their purpose is.
Yeah.
My purpose is to give the most value to the most ways to the most people. And those people include my clients, my friends, strangers, people on Instagram, my wife, my kids.
Right.
When I say the most people, that's who it includes. And so what kind of value am I going to give them if I quit? Like
Mm.
I'm deciding because I've made such a strong connection between being the best version of myself and the ability to give value to the people I care about. I would literally have to say to myself, I don't care about anyone anymore. It's not about me. It's
Right.
nothing to do with me. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when it's about you, you're always fighting you. You want to sleep in, but you want to work out. One day this one wins, this day the other one wins. But when you have to go pick up your kid from school, it's not, it's
Right.
about
Like you
your
said.
kid. And when you understand the connection to health and fitness and everything to the people that you love, it's not about you anymore. So there is no choice. There's no quit. It doesn't matter what I think at all. Sure, would I like to not work out? That'd be kind of cool. Have a lot
Yeah.
of free time, I guess. But I also know that I would be so miserable, and I wouldn't be able to give the value that is my purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I liked what you said. You could be your example with the rowing machine, today's not my day. How many days can you say that? How many days have you already said it if you're listening? I like what you said. If you always just do the same, sure, you might be stronger than where you were, right? I mean, if you went from lifting 30 pounds on every machine to now you're lifting 70 pound on every machine and you're just staying there. And maybe that's what you're satisfied with. But if you just do that every day, the same thing, like you're never getting your heart rate up. You're never actually stressing out your arms. You're never going to go anywhere. So yeah, doing more weight might be, like you said, a hardship, painful. You don't want to do it. But if you just do the same thing every day, you're not going to grow anywhere because what it
Yeah.
is, I mean, fitness is breaking down your body to rebuild it. But if you never break it down, it's not just going to build on top of itself. That's not how it works. And I think you said translating it over to life advice was great. People are avoiding everything. I think technology has made that a lot more easy to do. There's a lot more hiding from stuff. There's a lot of people like I've had a couple episodes about bed rot and just sitting in your bed all day because you don't want to go out and do stuff, or just staying in your home and being, whether it's on the TV or the internet, or just sleeping away life. And there's nothing wrong necessarily with sleeping. I know I've gotten backlash for bashing on it, but the truth is, if you're just sleeping away your whole life, I mean, there's so much life to live, and you only live when you're awake. And I know people, especially in the military, who all they want to do is just go home and sleep and wait till and it's the next day. And again, it's such a privilege to be alive, to be healthy, and go out and do stuff, to just sleep that away, or hide. And then, like you said, when you're not dealing with all these small hardships, it's going to make future ones look even more bigger and intimidating. Like you said, people are just falling apart at the first conflict because they're not building up a base immunity to it. So I think that's great. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're not feeling pumped up,
Hmm.
then you might want to give it a re-listen, because I feel pumped up and inspired, and I want y'all to take that away from this, is be inspired. I don't want you to listen to this episode and be like, man, I'm so behind on my fitness, or, I'm not at the level of these two guys, or other people. It's about where you are right now. Mr. Hochman didn't get to where he is overnight. It took years, right? I mean, and me, I'm still on my journey. I think physical fitness is a journey, not a destination. Like I said, you might be somewhere where you're satisfied, but you still have to maintain that, especially the older you get, the more you have to work to maintain that. So it's definitely a journey. And Mr. Hochman, I didn't know if you want to bounce anything off of that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it kind of goes back to the who thing. Like, I was just thinking about when you're asking me if I want to quit. It's not like, do I want to quit? Who is gonna quit? Who
Mm,
is the person that quits? Like, who is that person? That's not me. I'm not a quitter. You know,
right.
I can't be that person who just quits on things. And yeah, it really doesn't matter. It just isn't about the level. I don't really care how physically strong someone is. Like, that's just a matter of time and effort. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to it. Time, effort, genetics, all that stuff. It's it's really the who. So it's like, who is basically getting out of their comfort zone, who is pushing themselves, who is trying to get better, who is showing up every day. It's all about the who. Someone could be the strongest, so strong and fit and all this stuff, but if they're not the who, then they could stop and then they go right back to being, just like everybody else.
Right.
So it's really just about the who. It doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter what you could do. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
I
Like,
agree.
it just matters, like, who shows up when they don't want to, what kind of person are you, and really who is aligned with their conscience. And when I keep saying about conscience, a lot of people think conscience means like stealing and stuff like that, but it's that feeling or voice inside your body when you just know you're not aligned with who you really are. And I think a lot of people are out of alignment with who they really, really are. And that's what causes stress and anxiety and depression and all these things, because they're not who they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And Tian Wong, who was on the show before, she talked about, she recognized that misalignment when she got to the top of a set of stairs and was out of breath. And she's like, this is not who I want to be. This is not me. And there are some people who would just accept that and be like, all right, this is who I am now. Like you said, if you quit, that's who you're gonna be now. You know? And I like one thing you said is it doesn't matter about strength. And then earlier on, you mentioned something great, which is, how do we measure strength, right? A lot of people think it's just how much you can lift. But when it comes to fitness, I think, like you're saying, the strength is measured, are you achieving your goals, right? And so it might be running, it might be performing better at your job, it might just be having higher energy levels. Strength being that measurement equated to who you want to be and what your goals are. So I totally agree with that. I think that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, we just create ourselves through our daily habits, anyways. It's like it, it- everything is based around you show me someone's daily habits, and I'll really show you who that person, it'll show me who that person is. And so, yeah, like, some people are just naturally really strong and fit and they don't even have to try. So, like, I'm not impressed. So, okay, so you don't have to
Right.
try. So you're stronger and got better cardio than most people. So you lean on that strength to feed your weakness, your weakness of allowing
Right.
yourself to just not try that hard and compare yourself to others. I mean, it's cool to inspire yourself by seeing what's possible, what other
Yeah.
people have done, but you really should just know, did you do what you were supposed to do today? That's it. If you did, then you win the day. If you win, a week, you win a month, you win a year, you win your life. You just keep trying to win that day. You have a checklist. These are things I got to do. These are the things that'll make me proud. I got to eliminate the things that give me regret. I'm going to increase the things that make me proud. And I'm just going to live my life doing that for the rest of my life. Like if I could simplify it in one sentence, it would be increase what makes you proud and decrease what gives you regret. And that's it.
Who you out of that? Yeah, Mr. Hochman, I think that's perfect to wrap up this episode with a statement like that. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Like I just said previously, ladies and gentlemen, be pumped up. I hope y'all are inspired and definitely send this to whoever needs to hear it. But Mr. Hochman, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it too.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride, jokes and laughter fill the air. On this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of the ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.